So we'll get started. We have here present Guy Thielen, Harriet Applegate, Greg Kluge, Graham Ball, Drew Herzig. We have Roland Anglin on Zoom. Stephanie is not going to be with us tonight, and Lee is here as well. So thank you all for being here. And we can get started with our agenda. So we have two sets of minutes to approve. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of January 8th? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, January 9 minutes. Can I have a motion to approve those?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, there's minutes. Any changes to the agenda? Okay, none. Nobody here from the public. Moving down to item 6 and the report on the doodle poll. So we have a number of different days and times that are working for almost everybody. And those include February 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 6th, and 10th. Now, the 3rd and the 10th are Saturdays. I will try to avoid those. But I will send out invitations to the speakers we're still waiting to have visit us, and hopefully we'll be able to narrow it down to have as few extra meetings as possible. But I'll get invitations out to people tomorrow. I did hear back from one of the mayors so far with a yes, pending scheduling. So we'll work on that. Any questions?
Which mayor was it?
Mayor Wheelo,
I'm sorry, is that Southview, please?
Southview.
Thank you.
Yeah, and when I was reaching out to Shaker, I did have a brief conversation with the mayor's assistant, which was, very upbeat. So I'm hoping I'll hear back from them soon as well. But I'll follow up with folks now that I have some actual days and times that I can propose. So moving down to item B, Romanet 2, just to review, we're waiting for survey responses from 2 city council members, Mr. Maddox and Mr. Petrus, and from the mayor. And again, I'll follow up with them on the new dates and remind them about that. Any questions? Okay, moving on to Romanet 3. The city did include a notice about our Save the Date in a newsletter that I got recently. It doesn't have our graphic, but it does have the Save the Date information. So we'll follow up with the city about posting the graphic with the text that we're going to talk about tonight. So we have to finalize the text both for the voicemail message and for text that will accompany the graphic. So we can move on to that item, which is under C. 6C. So we have in our stack of papers in front of us this document, which has colors on it, which is the voicemail message that Guy prepared, for which we thank him, with comments that Roland had and a couple of little comments that I had. So does anybody have any further comments to the voicemail message?
Well, I knew there were going to be some suggested changes, and I knew that Roland had proposed some and you had proposed some, so I didn't feel it was worthwhile, too many cooks sort of a thing. So it's ultimately Guy is the one going to be recording this, so he has to feel comfortable with whatever version we come up with.
And I'll just offer it'll be close, okay? When I'm speaking, I don't necessarily read word for word, something that somebody's prepared for me. So it'll be close to what's here. The one thing I would say is that if we read in the 1, 2, 3, third paragraph, like fourth line from the bottom, it says ranked choice voting is a system where ... And if you go to the publication version of this, I had inserted where voters rank the candidates for a given office by preference on their ballots. And that is straight from my Google search, and it made sense to me, so I said, well, I may as well put that in there, and that's a good explanation of what ranked choice voting is.
Okay. Okay, so do we have a motion to
Well,
accept?
Actually, in the first block of text, third line, the commission members, I would say invite you. I think invite is more invitational than encourage, if that's okay. The council members invite you to attend a public meeting. That is an invitation. Encourage is sort of like not quite an invitation. So I would just change that to invite.
Noted.
And what are the green blocks supposed to mean? Is that deletion?
Those are just, it could mean that there was a deletion, so I wasn't showing what was deleted because I couldn't really do that on my screen.
I just scanned it, it's fine, as far as I'm concerned, it's fine unless somebody has something they wanna change.
And again, it's a little redundant there, but you can, from the first block, invite you Monday, blah, 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 then the third block invite you, it's basically repeating kind of a thing. But you can vary the message there, after the information about what a charter is and that sort of thing. So say, we're hoping to see you at a public meeting, blah, 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 that kind of a thing.
Any other comments? Do we have a motion to approve?
So motioned.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Oh, that was an aye. I thought it was an
Okay, then we have the second version of this, which is we'll go with the flyer when the city puts it in the newsletter. Any comments or suggested changes to this? It's very similar to Gee's.
Can I ask will we have a page where people go to register, and will we have a
Yes,
link
I
for
would
that?
propose that we have a Google sign up, and that's later in this agenda. But that's what I would propose, so we have an idea of how many people are coming.
Okay,
Not to tell people, if you don't register, don't show up, but just to ask people to please register.
okay. So my question is, who's gonna add that who will create that and then add it?
Well, that's our agenda.
Oh, that's
item to
coming up, I'm
discuss in a
sorry,
couple minutes.
apologies.
in the first thing, the last sentence, the current Charter Review Commission is charged with the task of recommending to City Council modifications to the existing charter which make the description of the city government relevant to our time. I agree with that, but that's obviously not all we're doing. But that, rather than getting into all we're doing, I think that's a good summation. But, that kind of includes the updating language, et cetera, but as far as the bigger questions that we're looking at.
Well, I think actually that may have been language that was in Gee's original draft.
It is.
So we can simply say modifications to the existing charter, period.
I think we should.
That's better because it's less definite, which is where we're at.
Okay.
Then there's elaboration in the third paragraph that makes it all clear.
Yes.
Okay, any other
Can I
comments?
ask who owns this document at this point in time? So
I
we
do.
should be noting it. So you're
I
noting
do.
the changes, you'll make the changes, okay, we're good.
Okay, so do we have a motion?
Do we want to say in the second paragraph that registration is not required?
Well, I could say that. I could say it would be helpful if you would register.
Yeah, I think that's important.
Make it a little gentler.
Could we say it could be helpful but not necessary for you? Because I don't want people to get the idea that if they don't register, they shouldn't come.
Right.
So it would be helpful if you register. It would be helpful
we
but
could
not
say-
necessary.
We could say, while advance registration is not required, it would be helpful.
Yes, thank you very much, something like that.
That's perfect.
In the third chunk of text, I'm a big fan of the Oxford comma. So in the 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth line, At large, everyone in the city votes for all seats, comma, elected council members by defined wards. I'd like to put a comma after that, or elect some council members at large and some by wards.
That's Jonathan.
You can let him in.
I'll get him.
Jonathan?
Oh, well.
Okay, Drew's coming down to let you in. Thank you.
Has this been happening all day, do you know?
No, it was just for us. I would assume that officer locked the door, not thinking there was a night. I don't know how to unlock it.
So I
Oh.
believe Drew was asking for a comma,
After defined wards.
after defining words, right, just please. Microsoft likes that too, if you're right. Roland, you can hear us well?
I can actually. Thanks
Okay,
for
good.
asking.
Okay, excellent.
Okay.
That's comma after wards in the third paragraph?
Yeah.
Isn't there where the semicolon is?
No, the fifth line.
After, in item 2, elect council members by defined wards, comma.
Okay.
And then in the next line, before 3, we don't need a comma.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
Took that out. So just have the same number of commas, we're just redistributing them.
Yeah, it looks like one of those ands might be superfluous as well.
Yeah. There was a very senior partner in my firm who was a big fan of having the extra comma in. And my husband has this hilarious story about he once worked on a document for this guy and they went through the whole document with comments and then they went back to the beginning and the partner said he thought there should be more commas. And Jim said, I think there are enough commas in there now. So those of you who are lawyers know this is not typical repartee between a junior associate and a senior partner. But Jim claims he did it on purpose because he didn't want to work for that guy.
Can you remove the, after the 3, there's the word and that really doesn't belong.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Drew.
Sure.
Hello, Jonathan, welcome.
Hi, Jonathan.
Did I miss any more commas?
Just a couple things. We added your comma, we took out an extra comma
Oh,
in the next line, and we took out the word and after the closed paren, after the 3 closed paren. So Jonathan, you'll see that there's a nice little stack of papers. One of which is this, which is what we're talking about. So we'll give you a minute to get oriented.
Oh, no, please go ahead.
Okay, any other comments on this document?
Thanks.
Do I have a motion?
so moved.
Second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So, moving right along. So the next item is to talk about the draft project plan, which you have also. So I made some edits to this and I sent it out to folks a couple days ago, I think. I don't know if you all have had a chance to look at it. But what I did basically was, reflect the passage of time and a date for the first public meeting. I think I may have also, I'm suggesting that we need a second meeting for public input after we have a draft of our magnus opus. So it would be April or not later than mid-May if we need to get our draft to city council by the end of May. So does anyone have any questions, comments, suggestions about the revised work plan?
I'm wondering if at our February public input meeting, if we could ask at that time, if people would be interested in another meeting to go over the final draft. If there is interest, that's great. If there isn't any interests, in the interest of our time, maybe we could keep that in reserve. Just wondering, if people show up at the one meeting, we ask, would you like to come to another one? We've got a finished product for you. It might be a good way of testing whether there's sustained interest or not.
Well, there would be people in the community who might wanna come to the final meeting who don't come to this meeting.
Yeah.
In fact, I think there'd be more people who would wanna come to a final meeting.
Well, again, it's our time, so
Yeah.
if we've got something ready by the end of, if we've got something ready, or we know we will have something ready in time to get out at least 2 weeks' notice on another public meeting. So I mean, that's kind of, we have to kind of back up to say,
Right.
we have a definite ending date for, we will have a draft ready, and based on that, we can project out to a public meeting.
I would think that we just have to make it our business to do it,
Absolutely,
to have it done in
Yes.
time, to have a second public meeting.
yes,
Because I think we owe that to our fellow residents.
which means, you know,
Now, this is a timeline that is totally geared to putting something in the November ballot, is that correct?
It's geared to getting something to city council by our deadline,
Okay.
and our deadline is related to putting something on the November ballot. Now, we could talk about whether we think it's ideal to put something on the November ballot. Ultimately, that's city council's decision. But one thing to think about is that if we put it on the, if city council decides to put it on the ballot for November, the proposed charter amendments could get lost in the noise of a presidential election where there's a lot of other things on the ballot. And there may be less wavelength for voters to pay attention to charter amendments, especially if we have a lot of them. So question whether it would be better for it to be on the ballot the following year when there's less on the ballot and there's more time for people to pay attention to it, review it, consider it. I don't know how strongly people on city council feel about getting something on the ballot this year. I asked Council President Kuda whether he felt strongly about that, and he didn't seem to care a whole lot that it got on this year. He was pretty blasé about it. He said, I think it can wait till next year. So I don't know what you all think, but I'm interested in your,
I have opinions about this because I've thought about this quite a bit. This coming November is not only a presidential ballot, but a senatorial. And, the turnout will be pretty large. And I guess I would argue that you're gonna have the largest but the least educated group of voters voting on this pretty technical stuff. And my sense is that, a lot of these voters who are maybe just coming to vote in the presidential, but have been encouraged to go all the way down the ballot, I think they're gonna look at something like what we're gonna be putting on the ballot, which is gonna be long and take a long time to read, and just say, no, without even reading it. I don't wanna read this much. I'm not that into this. I don't really care about the city charter. No. So I think we would increase our chances of getting a no vote, the larger the electorate. So it seems to me it not for that reason, and also for the more additional and perhaps more important reason that the following November is a municipal election year. So people that are coming to vote in that election are specifically coming to vote on Cleveland Heights matters. And so that particular electorate, which will be smaller than the electorate this November, but also more, I guess it's sort of it's a rung up in terms of their engagement in voting. And so I think we put something on a presidential ballot at our peril, and I think it would really increase the chances of the uninformed voter and quite honestly, the voter who doesn't really care about the city charter. Would increase the negative response. This is too much. I don't want any part of this. No, and I'm not going to even read it. Kind of. They're going to go in. They're going to. They might vote for president and senator, and then not like anything else and just say no. So I think it would make sense for us to put it on a municipal election year ballot. Or even a primary ballot, but then you're really talking about a small number of voters.
What do you all think?
I'd just like to offer that, is it really our question to decide, or we've committed to do something according to a certain time frame, and then that question becomes the council's question to decide?
Oh, it's not our decision.
Right. So
We can make a recommendation.
We can recommend.
Yeah, we could recommend.
Okay. And not that, just in the interest of being focused, it may help us to continue to have a May delivery date.
Mhm.
All right, instead of saying it's May of 2025, that we would want to do the
But we
same
don't wanna
thing,
do that.
which would,
No, we don't.
which would just,
We voted on that, didn't we?
don't wanna
okay,
do
so yeah. So
I
I'm
like
just-
your company, but
I'm just suggesting it might make sense to continue to have that, and it might turn out that circumstances don't permit us to do the job that we committed to do, but at least we would then have those circumstances to
Yeah.
discuss, explain, and all the rest of it.
Roland, what do you think?
I agree with everyone concerning the presidential deluge. I think it's much better to put it on next year without all the noise.
Okay, Jonathan?
I don't have an opinion.
Okay.
I hadn't really thought about it. I guess my first inclination was to have it in the presidential election year because we're gonna have the largest turnout. If we want the most citizens to vote, whether they're educated or not, I think that's democracy, so I guess that's my gut feeling. But I'm kind of agnostic to it. If it waits, it waits. I'm not gonna die on that hill.
Okay.
I feel like if we're speaking to dysfunction in the city government, our goal is to fix that, and the sooner that we fix it, the better. And I don't necessarily know that folks would be too intimidated to read it and just vote no. I feel like maybe folks just wouldn't vote on it at all, rather than making a decision. Although you could absolutely be right. I guess this voter psychology is not my area of expertise, but I feel like if it was on for this year, I would have no problem with it.
Yeah, and again, it's not our choice.
Right.
The city council ultimately will decide.
Or we could, or make a recommendation or not make it.
Right.
That'd be the only choice.
So it's not something we necessarily, we don't have to vote on it tonight or make a decision on it tonight one way or the other. I think right now our deadline is May 31st. And I think we should proceed with the plan that we're gonna be finished by then. Unless you all have a different attitude about that, but that's what we had decided on early on, that we didn't wanna have this thing go on for a year and a half.
I guess my only thought about that is if that means we're gonna have to have 4 or 5 meetings a week, I'm already getting very weary. And I think, I think if we end up having to meet 4 times a week, I think that
Well,
it's not necessarily desirable to meet this deadline.
I was thinking that not a subcommittee, but a work group or something like that. If it gets to the point where 2 or 3 of us, hopefully one person with the word skills kind of thing, sit together and create a proposed charter that we can review intensely at 1 or 2 meetings with no other business. Because really, we have to have a product at the end of this. Otherwise, anyhow, so if it gets to that, I would say that the chair can create a task force or a work group or whatever that will fly below the open meeting radar, and we can get something done so that the whole group can revise it.
I don't think any group work falls beneath the radar.
I
mean, we certainly can, we will have through our annotated copy of the 2019 charter, a pretty good start on a new draft. And then there will be some things we'll have to go back and work on. We can also have assistance from the law department and the facilitator to help us develop things that we have to draft fresh. I'm prepared to spend some time on drafting stuff. I mean, that's what I did for a living. But I think it's doable to finish by the end of May. And I think it would be good for us to do it, to do our work with that in mind. I don't think at all that it's gonna necessitate 4 or 5 meetings a week. I really don't. We may find that maybe we'll have a couple of times when we wanna meet a little longer to get through something, but I don't think we're gonna have to have a dozen extra meetings.
Well, we've had 5 meetings in the last week, right?
Yeah, but my impression from that was because of the
I know,
interviews.
I know.
No, I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally the interviews, otherwise we wouldn't have. And so I have a question or thought about a second public meeting, so I don't know if we are done discussing what we've been
Go ahead.
discussing.
But yeah, well,
You
actually,
didn't weigh in.
I wasn't asked for an opinion, but I'll give it anyhow. I'm glad it's the council's decision because I get where fewer votes mean smarter votes, but that is currently kind of undemocratic. On the other hand, looking at the current polling, it's pretty scary, the amount of ignorance out there, so I'm glad it's. One thing I would like to suggest, though, is when we present a charter to the council with the amendments and it's their decision to vote them up or down onto the ballot kind of thing, I would like to also have us propose to the council that they put 2 questions on the ballot. Would people be interested in ranked choice voting, and would people be interested in a hybrid ward at large kind of thing? We can write it into the charter, but I'm suggesting that in addition to that, we ask the council to put those 2 questions on the ballot so that we can get a sense of whether the public would be interested or not. Because I think the council, what we're hearing is they're going to vote those 2 down, either because they don't understand it or they're not sure about it or this or that sort of thing. I would like to get those 2 issues out in front of the public. So that's why I'm saying, in addition to whatever charter language we give them to vote up or down, let's give them 2 suggestions to put on the November ballot. Is that clear? I want to make sure that people
I'm
understand.
not sure that that's a thing.
We can ask for it, though.
But I don't know that that's a thing to put on a ballot.
Because the ballot's not a survey.
No, it's not.
Yes, but I mean, it can be phrased, whereas, should this city adopt a form of ranked choice voting?
Well, we would do that by giving them a bucket.
Well, what I said, I'll say it again, I'm pretty sure the council will vote down that bucket. What we've been hearing pretty much is people in the council don't understand it, they're not sure, they're reluctant to move forward with ranked choice voting. I think that ranked choice voting is important to a number of people on this commission. And I'm trying to get that in front of the public in a way that we can get public feedback to push for that in the face of possible council indecision because they
I
don't
understand your point. I understand what you're looking for.
Okay.
I just don't think it's a thing. I don't think that we can put a question on the ballot to conduct a survey. You could put a proposed charter amendment there. We could include it in our recommendations, and then city council will decide. And I understand why you're concerned that city council maybe won't accept it, just as University Heights didn't accept it, not to scratch wounds. But I don't know that there's really, under Ohio law, putting a survey on the ballot.
Yeah.
I mean, we could recommend that city council conduct a survey and see what kind of response they get from the populace. We could try to make it an issue in whatever municipal elections come up next year to encourage people to raise it with candidates and try to develop some support in the community to get the candidates to do it. But I don't know that it's possible to put something on the ballot to survey public opinion. What do the rest of you think?
Well, I think as a supporter of ranked choice voting, I think, if we think the council is uninformed about it, the electorate is, with rare exceptions, is completely uninformed. And so it's like asking them a question that they couldn't possibly know the answer to.
Well, if we got it on the ballot, then it would be up to the people who really want to have ranked choice voting adopted to start doing their own public education campaign. What I'm saying is I'm trying to prevent people from getting really, really disappointed and hurt when we have not moved ranked choice voting forward an inch after all of this stuff. So those who are proponents of it need to start thinking about how are you going to move this forward if you want to move it.
I feel like a couple things on this is that I don't think that council, if they voted it down, would approve a ballot measure to ask people about it. But I think that if we do end up recommending that to council, 2 things. One is that that in itself is moving it forward, right? So that a citizens commission could take that up using our recommendation as a rallying cry. But additionally, I think that we, as a council, I'm not sure, are we gonna have an ability to present our findings like at a council meeting where we're not just submitting them a written document, but actually we're gonna go and talk to them about this?
Not clear. I know that we have to submit a report
Mhm.
and we will submit, our work and a report. We can do that. And I would hope that we would have an opportunity to have some time at a committee of the whole and or a city council meeting beyond having 3 minutes.
Right.
That where we could actually make a presentation. But that's part of the reason for that second public meeting, that we have the stage.
Mhm.
And we then can present our work and say, here's what we're gonna recommend to council and get final public input on our work product. And then we have a little bit of time to tweak it if we get some great suggestions from our audience on some things that we ought to change. But I would think that the city council would be receptive to us having some presentation time. We could certainly ask. I can raise that question.
The 2019 did. If you go to the archives wherever, you can see the
Good.
YouTube.
Okay.
The chair of that commission did a full-scale presentation to the city council. And watching that is where I found out about that there was a document somewhere kind of thing. So there's the YouTube recording of that. And I think our Charter Review Commission page now has the archive of the 2019. And
Mhm.
somewhere on there, people can probably find it faster than I can, but there is the YouTube video of that.
That's good to know, because I feel like that'll be a very effective platform for us to advocate to council for the provisions that we end up recommending, so that, people don't vote it down just because they don't know what it is.
Right, and we actually do need some, even for the language changes. We need to explain the reason we are changing, we are recommending you this language is we threw out archaic language and we changed, the gender, the language to gender neutrality. I mean, even though it's a one sentence explanation, even that needs explaining. You can't just plop it on the ballot.
Well, the University Heights final presentation gave great text about why they're doing this. We can take some of that as well.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that the bucket on the language changes and the gender neutral language, I feel like that's not as hard to sell as changing the way we elect city council or deciding to do ranked choice voting. I think it's in Cleveland Heights, I don't think gender neutral language is gonna be
Right.
much of an issue.
No,
It's
Yeah, that's why I grouped these basically on difficulty of lift, not importance. And I don't mean to jump ahead, but I just, in thinking about that, I thought this is easy to accept, this is easy to accept, this is really difficult, and these two are gonna be, oh my God, so that's just why it's grouped like that, not by importance, but by
Yeah, it's
ease
a good
of,
way to
ease
group
of,
it.
yeah.
It's a good way to move it.
I will say that we had an interesting exercise last night in trying out ranked choice voting. And I think it was sort of illustrative. I think people felt that it was a good experience to try it. And we could certainly, organize more events like
Bring
that.
drinks for the council and say, no.
Is this the ranked choice drinking?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Ranked choice
it was
voting.
beer, but maybe next time we would do wine.
Right.
But it was just interesting to see how it actually played out in real time.
Yeah.
And see how it shifted from, weeding out one, weeding out another, and what actually won.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it was good practice.
Yeah,
And
it was very good because it was like just four beers.
3 beers and a cider, actually,
Yeah, 3 beers and a cider.
just to provide some diversity.
Of course. I mean, it may sound funny, but actually if someone's really interested in moving the needle into Cleveland Heights, it might be interesting to have more of those, and maybe
Yeah.
one episode of it about bakery items, or I don't know what.
Yeah.
All right, you could do
Yeah.
lots of different
Basically,
kinds.
Yeah,
just
you could
get
do,
that
yeah,
going.
bakery
Many different
items isn't bad
formats.
because, I had a lot of women friends that say, well, I don't drink beer, let's do wine. And then I had other friends that said, I don't drink at all, let's do soda,
Right.
Bakery items might be much better.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you could do it in lots of different ways, just to give people the experience
Yeah.
of how it all plays out in real time. So I think hands-on can really clear away a lot of cobwebs for people who weren't really sure, what does this really mean in real life? But anyway, that's just something to think about.
And this all came back to our scheduling, our work plan, basically, but
Right.
I think we all agree we want a product by the end of May
Yeah.
in front of the city, to go in front of the city council.
as long as it doesn't put undue burden on us for.
Yeah, I am concerned if, you know, I agree with you, Linda, that probably won't happen, but if something untoward were to happen in the April or March or something, you know,
But as long as we have a quorum at meetings, we can keep
Yeah.
forging
Yeah.
ahead, and we do understand that people have other lives to live.
We could do a little weekend retreat in May or something and just
Well,
walk in.
you know, we may decide that that's the most
Yeah,
efficient
maybe-
way to do it, to take
maybe-
a Saturday and
yeah.
spend the day slogging through it.
I would prefer that to every night of the week.
But we could, think about that, and we could discuss that at another meeting, but think about whether you would rather do it that way. That might be more palatable.
In preparing our final presentation, I think that could make sense, do a
Yeah.
real.
Yeah, just to drill down and
Okay,
hunker down till we're done.
okay. Does anybody else have any comments on the work plan?
No, not anymore.
If you could transfer your question.
Yeah,
Did you have a question?
no, not anymore.
So I don't know that we need to take a formal motion on this, but I think it's just intended to kind of illustrate to us what we have to accomplish in order to get to our goal. Roland, did you have anything? Take that.
Thank you, Linda. No, I'm good.
Okay,
Can I just ask, where is that? Is that document up on Dropbox?
Lee, is that in the Dropbox?
The
work plan? Could you put it there, please?
Yep.
Thank you.
And then if you have comments, we could certainly discuss them at the next meeting. We ready to move on? So the next item has to do with, we already talked about finalizing our voicemail message and text, how we can share the save the date flyer. So the League of Women Voters will circulate our flyer with our text. The city is gonna put it in the newsletter. Now, Lee, did you have any conversation with Mike Thomas about using the graphic that we provided?
No, not after we sent them the updated one.
Okay, so I will follow up with him about that, because I would like our graphic to be used, and then we have this additional text to give him, so I will follow up with him to be sure he has our final product.
I'm misremembering what's our graphic again?
Here it is, sorry, I mean, not sorry. Just,
Oh,
It's our flyer,
it's the file.
okay. Oh, the graphic is the flyer.
yeah, yeah. And then we'll send it to the League of Women Voters. What exactly is gonna be in the Heights Observer and when, do we know?
I didn't get you don't get a response if they're gonna publish it, and I will circulate what I sent in.
So we don't know if it's gonna be
It's
published?
25 copies, it's the same thing.
I can
And
follow up to see if they tell us.
did you submit it for online or hard copy or both?
You submit for hard copy. If they don't use it in the hard copy, then they potentially might publish it online in the weekly
Okay.
blasts.
But if you reach out to them, will they let you know?
I would hope they would know at this point what's gonna be in, so yeah, I can ask them.
Okay.
Are they always looking for copy?
Usually, you think.
Well, also, could we ask them to put it in both the hard copy and the online version?
Sure, I can see.
So Guy has graciously volunteered to post the flyers around town, which is helpful. I'm wondering if I should write a short letter to the editor of the Sun Press and ask them to, just send them a letter and see if they'll publish something, letting people know that we're gonna have this.
Well, can you include a flyer in the letter?
I could certainly send it to them. I don't know that they don't really have a community calendar kind of thing the way that the Heights Observer does.
Or treat it as an ad?
Yeah, they'll wanna, they would
Well,
be
but I
happy
don't
to
wanna,
post
I don't
this
wanna, we don't have a budget,
Right,
but I think it's a
Like
community
press release.
service.
public service
It's
announcement,
a press release.
Yeah, kind of.
Right.
Yeah, I could write it as a press release.
yeah, right, and
Yeah,
it is.
I can make it as a press release and see if they'll publish something maybe their intrepid reporter will wanna write something up about it. Now, we can also send these things, send out the flyer with our text to our own mailing lists, Facebook pages, whatever else we use in our daily life to spread the word around the city.
Incidentally, I looked, since I wasn't here on Monday, I pulled up the YouTube video today, and so there were already 50 views in the last 2 days. So I think there's a lot of activity. I think we're gonna have a pretty good showing.
Good.
There's gonna be a lot of word out there. People watching, it's gonna be the city email blasts. I think it's gonna be a good.
50.
I was surprised,
Yeah, that's
because it was just put up yesterday, so 24 hours. It was
Yeah.
That's
50.
great.
Do we get royalties?
I
That's really
was shocked. But yeah, people are watching.
Thank you guys.
I have a lot.
We love you.
Another venue would be Nextdoor. I don't have a lot of confidence in Nextdoor, but it's not a place to avoid as much as,
Except if you put it on Nextdoor, then you might get all kind of.
I don't care. I don't read their comments. Sorry, I mean, no offense, but I don't read their
Is
comments.
anybody on Nextdoor?
Not anymore, so.
I'm
I'm on it. I mean, I don't look at it much,
You're
but
on
I'm
it,
on
Keith?
it.
I'm a lead for the neighborhood, so I
Oh.
Alright.
kinda,
Okay, well, do you wanna post something?
I will. Well, that's what I'm saying, I'll post.
How about Patch? Does anybody know how Patch works? Is that a pay to play, or do they post stuff?
Well, who's our youngest member? That would be you. Tell us about all these social media platforms we should be on.
All that I really use is Instagram. That's
Put it on Instagram.
I will put it on Instagram. I was saying earlier that I heard about this Charter Review Commission from the Cleveland Heights City Government Instagram. So
Okay.
that is how I first got involved. So,
All right, well, yeah,
has some reach.
Cleveland Heights had an Instagram. Wow.
that's great if you will post there. And yeah, that's fabulous. Anybody have any other ideas about how we can spread the word?
And the city's agreed to put it in their email blast.
They're gonna put it in the newsletter a couple more times,
Well,
It was in already once.
yes.
Oh.
So I think it's worth it to ask merchants if they'd put one of these flyers in their
He's
windows.
That's what I'm
Oh,
doing.
you're doing that.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
gonna,
he's
I'm
gonna
gonna
go
walk
around town, so if anybody wants to help Guy,
I'll
let's
help
go
you.
around.
I'll help you.
Okay,
Then maybe we can have our coffee.
that sounds fine. That sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be fun. So we're talking three business districts? Fairmount, Cedar Fairmount, Coventry, and
No,
Cedar Lee,
Noble,
Noble?
well, four.
Four.
Four business districts.
yeah, I think we wanna make sure we spread them around town.
There would be kind of Taylor, but it's not really a business district yet. I mean,
Well, there's a few businesses there.
Yeah, there is a few, yeah, there's that.
I don't know how many of them will post things, but we could try. I mean, the important thing is to get it around town, because we wanna make sure we have a broad distribution. And if you need more copies, Lee will run up his copy machine.
But we're gonna need more than 25, that's for sure. What do we have
So what do
total?
you want, do you wanna make the request now then? How many should we have?
50? Just for us, just for the
25
distribution.
more or 50?
50
He's
more.
got 25.
I've got 25
Oh, for distribution.
for
Yeah.
distribution.
Yeah, 25 more.
Okay. Do that before we leave today.
Okay, thanks, Lee.
Okay.
Something like 1,300.
Anybody else have
I know there's a
any
lot.
other comments or suggestions about how we spread the word? Okay. So then there were a few things we had in the agenda that really were for Lee, and the first one has to do with the sign-up mechanism. So I don't know if the city is geared up to do that, and also if we have some kind of a Google sign-up document, will we be able to access it? Because if it's gonna be a hassle for us to access it, I'll just make one.
So we don't use any Google accounts through the city, so I can't set that up through a city account.
No, and if you use M365, you can use Forms, and that'll give you a QR code.
Yeah, but since we don't have access to city, emails and stuff like that, it just occurred to me that it might be cumbersome if the city is collecting the signups, just in terms of us having a view on what do our signups look like, and how much, do we need additional outreach, or 100 people coming or 300 people coming, we have to be able to plan. But I can make a Google Doc.
I mean, I would assume just as long as a PDF of the final list makes it into the record, then yeah, that would make sense. Because like you said, if it's done by the city, you won't be able to access it.
I would recommend using tinyurl.com for that as well, so that people aren't typing in the whole Google Doc URL.
Yeah, the only thing I found that sometimes with tiny URL, if it gets forwarded a couple times, the link stops working.
Mhm.
Have you had that experience?
No, but that's concerning.
Yeah.
There's a couple others that will link shorteners, just
Yeah. But we'll figure it out.
yes.
We'll figure it out. And we could get a QR code too. Some people find that very convenient.
How will they know where to go
For the meeting,
for the sign up?
there's gonna be a link in this thing we're gonna post.
We could have a link
Put it on
in
our
and
webpage.
Okay, so you'll have a digital copy with the link.
Sorry?
You'll have a digital copy with the link.
Yeah, so this thing that's gonna get posted with the flyer, there's a blank in here to add the link to the sign up page.
Got it.
So we'll do that, and we'll also, we could have a QR code. See, right now, there's a QR code in that flyer that takes people to the webpage, I think, isn't there?
I don't think so. On the flyer, a QR code? No.
I thought there was a QR code on the PNG file.
I'm sorry, not that I know of.
Okay, well, we can.
I mean, if you want something, next version, you have that, but.
We could add a QR code for purposes of what gets posted on social media.
When I was doing MailChimp, you could just make a word in your email text, the link to the document. So that you could say,
Yeah,
please register for the meeting, bold word here, and you click on that and
Yeah.
it takes you
do you know how to do that?
Sure.
I'll work with Graham on that.
the youngest and the oldest person on the thing.
Well, I learned how to use MailChimp and I learned how to use Canva, but my skills aren't that good. I'm still building skills in
older
those.
than you, Drew.
For sure. No, there's a,
Very well preserved.
I work with that in my professional capacity as well, so.
Okay. All right, but we'll try to facilitate the sign up so that it's easy for people. And then the second thing is here, Lee, can the city provide us with the supplies we need for the meeting?
As far as recording,
The wine.
Recording, but also envelopes, pens, index cards, name tags.
yeah, I'm sure.
Um,
I'll have to figure out where.
I sent you a little list,
Yeah.
shopping list. And then also getting the meeting recorded, obviously not the individual breakout tables, but the not breakout table parts. And then can we stay till 8:30 in the rec center?
Okay.
Those are your homework assignments.
We're not gonna do water or coffee or anything like that, are we?
We don't have a budget.
Yeah,
So-
no, I'm not suggesting that we do.
I think water fountains are available.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if somebody needs water, they can find it.
Are they in the rec center? In the big, we're kind of in the big room, right?
You have a big room on the first floor?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're vending machines.
And there are vending machines, for sure.
Any other questions about all that stuff? Okay. I haven't checked to see if we've gotten any emails. Have we gotten any emails?
No, I don't think so.
I probably should check that.
Can I ask also now, since you raised that, when somebody does send an email to CRC at Cleveland, what happens to it?
Goes to me.
You're gonna look at it?
And you'll let us know?
Yeah, go for it.
You've got mail.
I'll either upload it to Dropbox or I'll probably print out a copy.
So it's sort of kind of curious that we haven't gotten, if
Um,
50 people are listening after one day.
do have some unread emails, so maybe I'll make sure there's none in there.
Can Lee, uploading it to Dropbox seems to be efficient and effective for me, as opposed to any kind of distribution of prints or anything of that nature, right? So I mean, if you just put what we got in there, then we could look at it.
Yeah, we could
Yeah.
look at it.
Okay.
Could you send us a notice that there's something in there though? Because I never go there because it doesn't work for me.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So if I'm given some incentive, like there's some cheese in the middle of the maze, then maybe I'll try and get it to drop.
I'll send an email.
I love metaphors.
Send an email to the
It's
CRC.
in a test,
Make
it's
sure,
in a
yeah.
test email. Okay. Anything else about all this stuff related to the meeting? Okay, so the next item is to continue review of the current city charter. But I guess one question I have is, do you wanna do that next, or do you wanna go to the buckets? Cause Drew prepared that list and I don't wanna fail to get to it.
Do the buckets first.
Do you wanna do the buckets first?
Yeah.
Have a motion,
So motion.
second,
Second.
any discussion? Okay. Drew, do you wanna lead us in this?
Well, we've been talking about that, and I thought it wouldn't hurt to kind of start, building the bucket, so to speak. And then as I was looking through this, I didn't want to have like first sources or apprentice endless buckets or anything like that, so I did a couple combinations. And again, I did these in order of, I think this will be very easy to get through the council. I think this will be more difficult. I think this is quite difficult and then problematic kind of thing. So the first one, everybody, all the city council members we've agreed on said, yes, update the language and go for gender neutral, that kind of thing. So that seemed to be just easy, and a lot of that was done 2019, but that's something we can do. The next one also, changing the numbers to Arabic numbers rather than Roman numerals, adjusting the dates on, percentages, all those, there'll be some fine detail, but they seem to be pretty clear that everybody was in favor of that.
Can I ask why you wouldn't have merged then the first two buckets into one bucket?
Well, because I thought one thing we're doing numbers and the other thing we're doing language, and I thought maybe it's just easier for people to say, because the language is not going to include changing a percentage of voters in the last vote. That's not language, that is actually changing numbers. So I figured
Okay.
actually changing numbers is kept separate because that's a real change rather than just that kind of stuff. The third one, I put in the non-discrimination policy because I felt it was connected to ethics in a way, and also I just didn't want to have another bucket, so I hope people will forgive me for that. We hadn't done our interview with Councillor Russell, so I said trainings rather than orientation, but we can change that to orientation because that seemed to be an easier term to digest kind of thing.
And I think the training really goes beyond parliamentary procedure. That's one kind of training,
And it might go beyond orientation too.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. This is just the start of a bucket. This is
Yeah.
just bucket scaffolding kind of.
I get it.
Yeah. And I put ethics for elected individuals because it is very different from your ordinary, you do this, don't do that. Elected officials have much more constraints on their behavior kind of thing. And then parliamentary procedure, since we're hearing that we still haven't determined one for city council meetings, whatnot, so anyhow, that kind of thing. Bucket 4 is the one that's going to be the biggest, basically, and this is just the start of some of the issues that have come up. So this will be kind of thing. Buckets 5 and 6, I think we're agreed that we're hearing mixed responses from city councilors. Probably going to be more difficult for them to vote this onto a ballot kind of a thing, but nonetheless, I felt we do want to move these forward as far as crafting language to present to the city council, so that for those of us who believe in this, we've done our due diligence.
So from what you just described, it looks like the bucket 4 would be the one that we would work the most with adding, not subtracting, but adding to.
I think that's going to be our biggest challenge, because we're going to have to figure out everything we've told about charters long-term, ordinances short-term. If you over-charter this situation, some people say it's just personalities, some people know it's structure. That's gonna be our hardest process, because we're gonna have to decide what's missing that should be in the charter.
Just as a suggestion, I think it might be helpful for our next standing meeting to have our facilitator attend, either in person or by Zoom, to talk, so we can brainstorm with him about the extent to which we want to propose charter revisions that address some of these issues, rather than recommend that there may be, council may want to consider legislation to address some of the issues. But I think that may help us to get a better grip on what seems appropriate to put in the charter versus not. you know, because we've had a number of different discussions around this, and I think we've all hit on this point that there may be some things we could do in the charter, but there also are some things that city council is just gonna have to work out through legislation, and it's really not something that belongs in the charter. But I think that the facilitator's role here could be very helpful, because he's got some experience in what other cities do, and he may have some good guidance for us on the extent to which we wanna put stuff in the charter versus not. What do you all think about that?
I think the more specific points we can give him, the better, because the last time was more generalized, which was valuable. But I don't want to waste his time or our time, because he will give us the same, don't get too granular, don't get too controlling, you know, a light touch on the charter kind of thing. But I would hope we would have specific questions to ask about when it comes to the XYZ of the mayor's role or the council's role or what that sort of thing. Otherwise, we'll still be back puzzling over the particular issue.
I would agree with that.
Well, you have a pretty good start on a list here, Drew.
Yeah, just to start, unfortunately, but I've been adding to it as issues have come up.
But I think it's time to ask the facilitator to help basically give us some more guidance about what belongs where, now that we do have some very specific things to address. And I would also like to ask him about his experience, which would indicate if we sense that buckets 5 and 6, which are the more substantial things, are misunderstood, not likely, or not likely to be well understood by the town council votes on it, any ideas that he has? I mean, has he seen that before somewhere? Because sometimes important changes have been made somewhere. I mean, I hope so anyway.
Well, again, University of Heights did both of these. I believe that you did, didn't
Yeah,
you? I mean, you proposed them,
Which ones?
the ranked choice voting
Five
and
and
the,
six.
Did you guys do wards?
We had a proposal from one of our members that didn't get 6 votes needed to pass CRC. I think it got 5.
But
it was still written up though.
But yeah, you did, when you communicated with city council, you discussed that.
Yeah, the report, it discusses it.
Reported that it was interesting.
Yes, yeah. So
The
there's,
report doesn't have the language for that.
No, it just had a short paragraph at the end that said, this proposal got so many votes.
But the
Did you
ranked choice
draft to
voting
that?
was,
Did I what?
Did you draft to that? Did your commission draft to that?
Draft, what?
Yeah, they did.
Electing by wards?
Oh, yeah.
He circulated it.
Yeah, we drafted a proposal for it.
so there is language
oh,
there.
you did draft.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
they-
Not send that to you, I think I
okay,
sent
so
out.
when you sent it to city council, you had that draft language in the report to city council?
No, that didn't make it in the report.
Okay, it didn't make it in the report, but you have the document.
Yeah, he had the document. He
When
showed it.
CRC was considering it,
Yeah.
we had a draft proposal for it.
Their commission actually voted on buckets, and some of the buckets didn't make it into
Right,
the
right,
final
I saw,
list.
you know,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
saw that, I mean, I went,
But
I was at the
yeah,
same,
yeah, but
yeah,
they wrote up the buckets nonetheless.
You wrote the buckets up.
language was there, yes.
regardless.
But am I recalling correctly that the University Heights proposal, it didn't pass on electing by wards, was using the language recommended by the model charter?
Yes, mostly.
So the model charter recommends, you know, they have several pages worth of text, but it involves was it nonpartisan or bipartisan commission?
Usually they call them independent redistricting commissions, that's in the context of states, but similar to that.
But it was a commission of 5 people. And I think it also, I think you have to presume that if something like that is gonna happen and there's gonna be districting that has to be done for the city, you're gonna need a consultant to help you figure out how to fashion the districts in a way that complies with voting rules so that they're not discriminatory.
Well, I have a further question for Lee then. Had the council, had more than one person supported the district proposal, would you have then written it up in fuller, in language that would be given to the city as to how to do it? Or is it just, would it have gone the way that Linda just described?
No, they wrote it up.
Yeah, we wrote at least a charter language, so council would have to pass maybe ordinances implementing it, but at least the charter, the structure for it was there in our proposal. And
In your proposal,
But like several pages of detailed stuff like it's in the model charter? or
Yeah,
just a
it's
couple
similar to
paragraphs?
these. Yeah, it's similar to the model charts.
And then the ranked choice voting write-up goes, whoa, I mean, it's really.
Well, that's because the majority supported that one, right?
Yeah, but it didn't get past the council.
But the-
Nonetheless, they wrote it up in a very full,
Right,
how
right.
it's gonna work.
And the League of Cities has a big chunk on ranked choice voting also.
The who?
Or, well, not, the document,
Municipal League?
oh, yeah, maybe it's the municipal league.
Well, the model charter does not provide a write-up on ranked choice voting. They refer you to a ranked choice voting site.
Well, there's
that.
something that I printed out from the last time we met.
While you're drawing that up, I was wondering, so if we're submitting these to council as buckets, are we assuming that council will exercise like line item vetoes on this? Like if in bucket number 4, they don't like 2 of these provisions, you know, they would just cut those?
Or if they have that power.
That's interesting, because if we're, because part of basing this on University Heights as well, they broke down the issues, the changes they made, but they also gave a complete text with all the changes written in. Now, I suppose if the council decides there's something about appointments to commissions or something like that, they would have to just strike that out somehow, and then the revised proposal would, that kind of thing. So I guess they have that power.
Sure.
I think that makes it easier because then it's, you know, it's a little bit less stressful about what to put in what buckets, right? Because if there's not a poison pill that's gonna wreck a bucket.
I like that combination of imagery. This poison pill will wreck your bucket. It's like the Marvel Universe, isn't it? It's kind of,
So you also, though, did the full write-up on the ranked choice voting?
Yes.
Okay.
which will make your eyes spin, believe me. It's like,
Well, maybe, maybe not.
yeah, well, it did. It got very, very detailed, you know.
Yeah. Well, I read through the model charter language about electing by wards and at large, and you know, it's pretty plain language legalese.
Yeah, I think the actual districting, when you have to get roughly equivalent population sizes in each ward, that sort of stuff, that's where we'd really need, I guess, a consultant or something.
Yeah, you need a mapping consultant. I don't think there's a whole lot of people with that expertise.
Well, anyhow, I thought this might make our task a little bit easier because we can say, okay, we can work with what we've got for the 2019 and do some tweaks with the language update, the changing some of the numbers. We've got feedback from the counselors on they want a little bit longer lead time on certain things, et cetera, et cetera. They don't want somebody to have to run again immediately after appointed, things like that. Those should be fairly okay. And I think we're all in favor of some sort of orientation for newly elected officials. It just makes a whole lot of sense. And then 4, 5, and 6 will be more work.
But we may find that for 5 and 6, that the University Heights Commission has good work that we can,
Certainly willing to
Borrow with
absorb.
attribution.
Exactly, right.
we don't wanna be accused of plagiarism.
Well, that's the
All before
sincerest
the
form of
Congress.
flattery after all, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
And if Lee gives us permission to quote that document kind of thing, then we can,
Well, it's a public document, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we don't wanna reinvent the wheel.
not when it's been done so well by previous wheelwrights.
Roland, you have anything you wanna add to this discussion?
I don't think so. I'm listening and I think we're going along a good path.
Okay, good. Anything further on this? Okay, should we pick up where we left off on reviewing the current city charter?
Do you have any queued up?
Okay.
So in terms of the buckets, I guess the takeaway is that we're sort of in agreement that this is a helpful way to break into chunks, the work that we,
Yeah, do you wanna take a vote on it? I mean, I think it's a good working model, you know, we can always tweak it as we go along, but I appreciate Drew putting it together, I think it's a good working model.
yeah, I think we should agree that this is a good way to, you know, to look at our work.
And I hope it was clear when I explained to Harry why the language changes and the changing numbers, percentages, I broke into two buckets because I think that's.
Yeah, that was this. Yeah, I think we should adopt this
I mean, like,
as this is an organizational.
Just a phrase.
yeah, as a guide, as a
Right.
guide
Yeah, a
framework.
framework,
Set
we
in
can
stone.
tweak it as we finalize our
Right,
draft.
then we're gonna add to, especially number
A
4.
work in progress.
Sure.
Bucket template.
Okay, so Harriet, you're making a motion?
Yes, I so move.
Second?
What's the motion, just to?
To accept this list of buckets as our working model to start with going forward and recognizing we will probably tweak it as we go along, but it's a really good framework for us.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Well said.
We have a second?
What she said.
Did somebody second? I'll second.
I did it.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I mean, I can pull it.
Okay. So,
I can see
leave off.
it's in the ballot, the language, bucket 1, bucket 2, bucket
Lots, I think.
Not on there
Vote
now,
on
I
your
can.
bucket list.
It might have an appeal.
I know, it might go.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah, let me go back.
These are the 6 things I wanna do before I die.
I'm getting that feeling, aren't you? Want to get this to council before we all kick our buckets, so to speak.
Nice hefty in here.
I'm not sure what this new thing is that we've got. How is it different from the techs are working on their tech, but how is this one?
that is the pre-2019 charter as compared to the charter today.
Oh, okay.
The elusive compare that we have been looking at.
All right. So
Okay.
we've got 3 things to look at. We've got the current charter, we've got the and then the charter, and we've got the proposed revision charter that never got across the finish line.
So this should be 2 of the 3 right here.
So for for section 4 here on the second page, the language that is crossed out was what was changed, and the language in red is the current charter language. Just to be clear.
You're looking at the vacancies?
Yes. Yeah, or just any of them, I guess, but right,
Yeah,
just
cross out is what was dropped and red underlined is what was added.
and so this is current charter
Yes.
as it stands right now.
This is current charter compared to pre.
Great.
And can I ask you, the difference was, what's been implemented here then is what was voted on the voters concerning the mayor?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the
Plus,
change.
plus the other charter changes after that,
Okay, right, there were a couple of.
like for the city clerk, the council clerk.
Right, okay.
But definitely not the 2019 charter.
Right, this is,
Right.
right.
Which is what we had been doing before,
Right.
was the 2019.
He basically accepted.
Right. Okay, but this is the actual real charter.
Okay, and who created this document?
Lee,
Lee, and is this up on,
Well, no, but I
is that
mean,
up on?
wasn't this created by,
Yeah, I put it in Dropbox
Okay,
today.
alright, thank you.
It's in the general file, so if you wanna move it somewhere else.
What's a general? Work,
Plug it into my computer when the password.
Probably just like not specified into any of the files.
it's more detail compared to the rest of it.
Sorry, Roland, we're gonna minimize you, but we know you're there.
Indeed.
Now let's see.
will Roland, he won't be able to see it.
We will not, no.
We could share a screen.
I could share a screen, yes. I can make it.
so we left off where?
You're on the like 1 or 2, I have it noted.
Yeah, we didn't get very
City
far.
council,
I don't think it took.
Article 2,
Okay.
Article 3, Section,
Didn't work?
One?
No.
We would,
did we get past that?
I don't know if we got into the preamble because we didn't have our changes to the 2019 preamble. We did want to adopt some of that language, but not some of the outstanding quality of life excellent municipal services I recall, and we added the term justice, so I don't think we got those recorded.
Well, Jonathan is going back to the annotated copy of the 2019 document to reflect what our minutes show about our discussions on the first part of that, but I don't know if Jonathan's been able to finish that yet.
Jonathan was going to get it done this week. So,
We appreciate you doing that.
We certainly do.
so I was actually shooting for probably Sunday about the latest.
So we need to revisit the preamble in some future time. As long as we kind of note that, so we don't think it's done.
Right.
Yeah, I think we've already noted that in our minutes.
So it's probably just the way it's probably. I'm just gonna do that.
So my minutes here show me that the last time we talked about this was on January 3rd. And we were on Article 3, which is the council.
Was this when we were in the council chambers?
Section 1, method of electing.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it does say 7 members elected at large, so that's if we
Yeah, so
decide
this is
we
where we
want
get into the method of electing council.
to go forward, that'll have to put in language there. And the proposed 2019 took out the 3 members elected at the first election because that's obsolete now.
Right.
So we would strike that. So are any of our many scribes on top of this? I know that Linda's making notes, but is anybody doing the digital documents? Because you're still trying to find stuff. Should we back up and wait until you're with us?
I would keep going because it's gonna be a minute.
So we're in the Article 3, Section 1, powers, number, and term. We're going to look at these 7 members elected at large. And then also the last sentence, except that the 3 members, et cetera, we're striking that because that's obsolete.
Yeah, so we've got how to elect city council is one of our buckets.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're gonna advance that, we need text needed for that. But otherwise, we have the language in the 2019 version.
Right, that expands it quite a bit to indicate which elections will be 3 and 4. This part here. Just that little paragraph and all that and stuff.
Did we get this last?
We did not know, it's from a ways back.
Okay.
That's my big file, I've been carting everything around.
Yeah.
So the 2019 proposal added quite a lot of language to that as far as, how to, which members.
A lot of it is really clarifying language.
Yes,
It's not really changing what the practice has been
but I.
when we're all
I think
the
we-
council people are at large.
I think we agreed that language was acceptable as the proposed revision was.
Yes.
So we will be incorporating that.
Similarly, we agreed that 3.2 in the 2019 version, which is qualifications, would be used. And 3.3, I think we were okay with what was in the 2019 for that. Now, filling vacancies was changed in 2022, and
Hang on just a second. I did bring up the moral turpitude thing because I think that is just such a weird term.
I think that's
where
part
are
of
you
the
looking?
questions you submitted to the secretary early.
Right.
Yeah, and I think we got an answer for that one.
Yeah, I think it's a, you know, it's
It's a legally
got a meaning in the
defined
law.
What does it mean?
So our answer is that it's left to council to define moral turpitude. When considering the expulsion of a member, it is defined in revised code, for purposes of several other statutes. I do think defining moral turpitude or replacing it with a list of specific misconduct would be a good issue for this year to consider. Could be changed to, quote, for conviction of an illegal act that reflects adversely on the council member's honesty and trustworthiness, end quote.
What are you reading from?
This is the response from the legal department to our question of
Oh.
moral turpitude.
Where did we
All
get
these
that?
questions that are on this list, I'm going to give a preliminary answer to, that'll be my preliminary answer. But I'm gonna send it to the law director and the facilitator to review, make sure it's correct.
Right.
Did we all get that email? I don't remember seeing that.
This,
Did what you just said?
Oh, I think that was, I don't know if it was in an email, but it's part of that spreadsheet I started drafting answers to.
How did you
Yeah.
how did you get that?
cause I was helping to
It's in the
create the spreadsheet. Is it?
Yeah. We'll get you a more full answer in a legal.
But I like that language, convicted of a crime, et cetera, because that's specific. It's not some, he's sleeping around or this or that sort of thing. It's specifically about that can affect. Is the language gender neutral, Graham? I didn't follow that.
CRC questions, potentially. I'm not sure, that's what I have it on, but I'm not looking on Dropbox.
Okay.
Yes, it is gender neutral language. Here, but there's,
Could you read it again?
yeah, so it could be changed to, quote, for conviction of an illegal act that reflects adversely on the council member's honesty and trustworthiness, end quote. And then there's other comments here about flexibility interpreting this, and that the Ohio Supreme Court has described moral turpitude as both characterized by baseness, vileness, or the depravity in private and social duties which man owes to his fellow man or to society in general, end quote.
What date was that written?
Couldn't tell you.
I wanna guess in the 1800s.
Sounds like. But I do like the suggested language. Did you write that, Lee?
Yeah, it's borrowed from the rules of professional conduct for attorneys, looked at the issue of moral turpitude,
Nice.
and how Bill
Yeah,
defined
because
what.
quite honestly, I think current thinking suggests that it needs to affect the way you know, the city government. Like if you're sleeping around, so what,
Right. Yeah. Adultery is not
Yes,
reasons
yeah,
for
or sodomy or whatever, all these other things that they used to.
We wouldn't have many of our most famous presidents or prime ministers in England if we didn't. So I would be in favor of, under legal advice, incorporating that language in place of moral turpitude. Plus, there's
Sounds
probably
like a
more
good
commas
idea.
in it.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, cause like this Spotty Lewis happens,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah.
Sleeping.
Is somebody capturing that? And I don't mean to put pressure on anybody.
I've
but-
got it right here.
Okay, and you have,
Jonathan has it on the screen.
okay.
So incorporate which
It's good language.
the language from the
From the
lead
chart.
document,
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
language from the charter,
The chart,
chart.
Lee's file is
Lee's
called
text.
CRC questions, and it's in the working folder of Dropbox.
Dropbox.
And did anybody ever send around recently the link to Dropbox? Because I don't think
Yes.
I.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I'll check my spam
Who
again
did, who
because.
sent it around?
I can't remember her name.
Michelle, I think it come from Michelle Smith.
Yeah, it was like the next day after the meeting in the council chamber.
So we should look for
Did get
anything
that.
from Michelle is
She sent
From
us several.
Dropbox related.
Yeah, she
It comes
sent us
from
several
Dropbox,
emails.
yeah.
I'll see if I got any of those. What's her last name?
Smith,
Smith.
Michelle Smith.
Were you not getting any of the messages about Dropbox, Drew?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
You are added, Drew, as your Drew Herzig at yahoo.com.
Okay,
You should have gotten it.
so I can get into it if I get there.
Right.
Is
I'll
his
check
name
for-
spelled right?
Looks like.
I just wanna offer, Drew, if you do have any problems with it, you can also, I can support you a bit on that.
Appreciate that, thank
I
you.
mean, I'm closer than, I'm sure there are better sources of support, and I'm sure there's lots more. But at least I have figured out how to do what I'm trying to do, which is the same thing you're
All right.
trying to do. So,
So that the proposed change of language, moral turpitude, we found that and grabbed it, and we've got it somewhere that we won't lose it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and Lee's gotta get it blessed by,
Yeah, it'll be part of our law department
So
facility.
you drafted what he read, but it's gotta
Yeah,
pass
yeah.
muster with
Yeah.
your bosses, basically.
Right.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
And maybe they have more input,
gotcha.
let's not bring it to the Ohio Supreme Court that came over.
yeah, I don't think we need to get too bogged down in this.
I think practically Shakespearean, wasn't it?
I think between Lee and the law director, we can settle this issue and not need to bring the facilitator into it.
Yeah, I would agree.
Should we move into section 4?
Anything else in policy? Let's see, where was that? That was removal, okay.
So for vacancies, we gotta look at the current charter, cause that's newer than what was in the 2019 proposals. And the one thing in here that came up so far in our discussions with people on city council is that the 45-day deadline for council to fill a vacancy perhaps should be changed to 60. So how do we feel about that?
Help me find this 45.
Third line,
This is the current charter.
Yeah, it wouldn't be in that one.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's the old one. I'm fine with extending it to 60 days. Although with our current council, I don't think it would have made a difference because they
Yeah.
seem pretty deadlocked, but
Mhm.
they all seem to support that idea of additional time.
Do they all support that or just one?
I should say all.
remember.
Well, I'd have to go back and look, but I think at least a couple of them specifically called that out. I can't remember if they all did.
Well, we had a couple who basically said no changes necessary, essentially.
Yeah, no.
Craig
Yeah.
Cobb and
Yeah, Craig and
Boyd.
Janine
Yeah,
basically
yeah,
said
yeah.
no changes.
Melody had more details, but I don't know if she was, again, this will go before them though, so if any of them are being.
Right.
But I'm okay with the change to 60 if it makes people happy.
I think the council members for whom this is important, they would like 60.
Yep.
I think we've had visits from some council members who didn't give any attention to our requests. So I don't think we wanna weight them very heavily.
So help me out here.
What's your question?
We're not.
do you want me to
If you're looking at the 2019 draft, you're not gonna find the current language because it's in, the charter today has different language than 2019. We're starting with what's in the current charter.
Yeah. Do we have that digitally?
That's on us too.
I'm not logged into, but I would grab it.
I'm sorry, I'm confused. I thought that what we saw here in the red was
Do you have access to
the current charter
No.
It is.
living under compared to the previous.
No, I mean, I can pull the Dropbox down, that's how I
In
get.
this document, that's true.
What you're looking at
Is
is.
that another working copy?
No.
But what this is giving us
Yeah,
is,
but this completely ignored the 2019 changes. This document.
Yeah, we really have to look at the current charter in its unredlined and that kind of thing, because that is the only currently embodying all the current changes there. The other
Yeah,
things
this
are not fully up to date.
Got it.
I think this
whereas
one's
the one
fully
that's
up.
got the red and blue is the 2019. The one that's only red is a cumulative compare.
This is the one we got today.
Yeah.
Everybody clear on that?
Yeah. I'm not sure how the red and red is very helpful. Here's the red and red, which to me is just blinding to look at, but that's, so
Oh,
that's.
you're looking at the chart, yeah, this is the same as this.
Exactly.
Does everybody understand what the two compares show? Harry, you look confused. You have a question?
No, I'm not confused, I just don't have the 2019, the red
Okay,
and blue.
does Drew have it there for you to look on with him?
Yeah, I'm sharing, yeah.
Okay. So you could sit by me if you need to see one. If Drew's got it,
Oh,
that's
yeah. Do you need to see this?
I can bring it up here.
Okay.
second, you can look at mine too. Okay, So Jonathan, you're pulling up something?
He's getting the Dropbox going,
Okay.
so you can have this digital version, so you can copy it, paste it.
Now in this, okay,
Lee, is the version of your cumulative compare in the Dropbox a digital version that can be
Yeah, it's
annotated?
in Dropbox, I think that's what he's getting at.
Okay, it's not a PDF though, it's a live
No,
document.
it's Word.
now, so we're still on 3 for the vacancies, correct?
We're on Article 3, Section 4.
Yeah, so in the proposed 2019, they added language about unexpired term, days, that sort of thing, And I don't-
Well, that language has to do with when the election should be held. And we also got some feedback from city council members as to how quickly an appointee should stand for election.
Okay.
So I guess we need to talk about that. So the question is whether we think that we wanna follow they should be up for election, the earliest opportunity to give the voters an opportunity to weigh in, or let them serve the term until the next municipal election. So you're delaying when the voters get to say whether they like that person or not.
So it's not a question of having a special election, it's just that whatever next election is coming up soonest,
Mm-hmm.
not ever having a special election.
Right. Yeah, the question is, do you have them at the next election, even if it happens to be a general election as opposed to a municipal election? Or do you have them serve the unexpired term essentially and come up when that term would naturally expire? Or I guess the next municipal election, because conceivably, the next municipal election could come up before the term would have expired.
Right, it could, because of the 4-year terms.
But I think what we were hearing from some members of city council is that they thought the person should just fill the unexpired term. So how do you all feel about that?
There were two sides, but I'm in favor of serving the unexpired term. You know what you're getting into, you know what kind of commitment it is, you're volunteering to be part of this sort of thing. And also, we're asking people to kind of get up to speed quickly, and then to have them turn around and have to run in an election, possibly a couple of months after they are appointed, I think is putting too much of a burden on citizens' participation in democracy. So I'm in favor of serving the unexpired term.
The one thing that's interesting about that is we certainly weren't lacking for interested applicants.
Yeah.
So it doesn't appear that having to stand for election is a deterrent,
Except what we're
given the
hearing-
large number of people who
Yeah,
applied.
a large
Well,
number of people who
Except
apply.
what we're hearing from the people who were in that position, and they said it's a pain.
Well, and I wonder if Gail knew she would have to run successive elections like that. I
Well,
don't think she knew.
I-
And that might have made a difference as well, if they said, hey, if we pick you, you're gonna be running for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
Well, but that's what the rule was.
Right,
So-
but I don't think they publicized, I don't think she
Exactly.
was
I think they
cognizant of
told
that.
people, well,
It's public, not, it's out there, yes, but I
We
don't
wanna
think-
talk about ignorance of the law not being an
No.
excuse?
No,
One of my
Particularly,
favorite clauses.
particularly if you're being appointed to fill a vacancy on the council, you assume that vacancy is the vacancy
That's
that
the
the
term.
person left, which is at the term of office, not like,
except what if the person 1 month into the terms are 4 years, which is a long term
Yeah.
in the office, that's very long. I would argue perhaps too long, but what if the first month into office, they moved to Chicago?
We kinda had a
Yeah.
quick,
Yeah, Jeff Coriel did that.
Yeah.
well, but we had a
Josie.
quick resignation with Josie. She
Yeah.
was, how long did
So
she serve?
here's
6
somebody
months?
who's, it seems to me that if it's in the first 2 years of the term, the next municipal election they should have to stand for election the next municipal election. In other words, if it's after half the term is, in other words, an appointed person shouldn't serve longer than 2 years as an appointee,
election.
rather than as opposed to not having to stand for election. Because you could serve for virtually 4 years as an appointee.
How many council are there again?
7.
So what would be the harm of just not filling it?
Oh, that would not be good.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you have 6, but then make the mayor the tiebreaker.
Oh, that would be.
Then you better think before stepping down.
Yeah.
Well, but sometimes people,
What if they have a heart
They
attack?
don't have a choice.
Yeah.
These are not
I mean,
discretionary.
Mary Dunbar got dementia. I mean, shit
Yeah.
happens.
If there's a,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that's okay.
What's in the first instance? I actually didn't quite follow that. Like in the second instance, they don't have to do this?
Where are we?
It's at the first sentence of vacancies. Any vacancy in the council shall be filled in the first instance by the appointment.
the second instance is that the
Oh,
mayor does it
right
because the
side.
council can't agree.
So the first instance just means the council gets a crack at it, kind of?
Well, they don't just get a crack at it, they're supposed to fill it.
No, but I mean, they don't mean if another council person retires as well, that's not the second instance. Okay,
Correct.
got it.
We can fix that language if that's confusing to you.
If it didn't confuse anyone else, cool, but yeah, when I read first instance, I'm like, okay, so if 2 people go, you know,
So I would favor language that says they have to stand for election at the first municipal, the first occurring municipal election.
But then conceivably, they could have to run in that first municipal election and then and 2
Right.
years later for the
Right.
next
I don't think that's fair to have to run in like 2 successive municipal elections, right? I think that if like,
Why not? They're appointed. They didn't get elected to start with.
yeah, but I think if you're appointed to the seat, I think you should either like fill out the term that you were appointed for, or if you have to run in the next municipal election, then that's your 4-year term starting that.
I think that it's interesting to note that
that seems fair.
that pretty much all the charters that we looked at have some variation on this idea that you don't just fill the unexpired term.
What Harriet said about if you're appointed if you're appointed less than 2 years into a 4-year term,
Right.
you stay there. If you're appointed more than 2 years in, it's hard to say, you would need to run again. I'm not sure.
No.
No, vice versa.
No. If you're appointed less than 2 years, whenever it is you get appointed,
Yes,
whenever there's the next municipal election, you have to run.
I thought you were saying into the specific term. If somebody was elected, they leave office in the first year, and I'm appointed to fill out that kind of thing, you feel I should run again in
Yeah.
the next municipal
Yeah,
election, is that
yeah.
correct? So it did, but if I was appointed more than 2 years into that term, then basically I just serve out the term because it's,
Well, then it would be the next municipal
Exactly.
election anyway. In other words, you wouldn't if the election coming up, you could stay there, but
Right.
if it's the next municipal election, if there's a general election coming in, it's not,
Can I say, please? I see the scenario where somebody gets appointed, then they have to go through an election, but then they have to go through the next election as well, which is what I think Gail Larson
Gail's
is,
had
the
to do
situation Gail's in.
Yeah.
And there might be a reason why people wouldn't choose to do that, even if they would be a real good council person, just because it's just too much trouble. So we're looking at changing the recall, right? So if somebody's really unhappy with the person who's been appointed, then they have the recall option. And I think that I just my opinion, okay? But I think if somebody gets appointed, they have enough respect of enough people that they can do the job. And if somebody doesn't like that, they can recall that person. And if not, that person should be left to do their job.
well, the truth of the matter is the recall is very rarely used, even when people are unhappy with somebody.
I understand.
Very, very seldom used, except
Very,
in
very
certain
seldom.
municipalities where it's used all the time. We don't wanna join that.
I'm just saying it's a safety valve for if someone's not doing their job properly.
It's supposed to be an
But you're
extreme
talking
remedy.
about an appointee. So you're talking about somebody that the citizens have not voted on, potentially serving 3 years and 11 months, or 3 years and 11 months and 29 days, without having to be elected by the voters, as opposed to, you know, they could get no more than 2 years as an appointee.
I
So
understand.
let me make a suggestion. So that, it's interesting, when you look at the language that our comparison charters use, several of them, like 3 of them say the successor is elected at the next, so this would be the appointee essentially, would be up for election at the next municipal election if more than 2 years remain in the unexpired term when the vacancy occurs, and if the vacancy occurs more than 90 days prior to the election. So they're looking at 2 different data points. One is how much time remains in the term, and the second is how many days till the election. So if a vacancy got filled too close to the next election, like if it's only 60 days, it's really a huge burden for somebody to run that fast.
Yeah.
So one of them uses 90 days, one of them uses 120, one of them uses 75. But they all have this concept of looking at when is the next election. And a couple of them, 3 of them use a 2-year marker.
And so, and if I understand it right, if it's within the 75 or 90 days, they just wouldn't fill it, they'd wait for the election?
No, the election would occur, the appointed person would be up for election at the next election. But if there's only 60 days left until that election, they would wait until the term expired.
So they're still appointed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't have to run.
They would
Which
wait
doesn't make any
2
sense to me,
years.
because if you're within 60 days, just wait for the election.
But people don't always have that choice, Jonathan. I mean, under some circumstances, admittedly, it doesn't happen all that often, but people may resign really not by choice, but because they have to. They're dead or,
You're saying leave the vacancy.
What I'm saying is, if I'm understanding this right, if there are 5 people and 1 person leaves, and it's 90 days to the election, why do you need somebody in for those 90 days? You can't just wait the 90 days for the next election to fill it?
You may not have people running.
Fill it within 45 days.
Oh, well, what if we change that?
Let me just put that in there though.
Graham, say it again, please.
I mean, so like, you know, if somebody passes away 60 days before the election, like people can't be expected to launch a campaign and then run for office if that wasn't even aware that seat was gonna be up. All right, so it's like waiting for the election doesn't matter if there's no one running.
Right,
That's a good point, and I don't know what the deadline is to get on the ballot, so that may be.
You could have one right. coming up with a presidential election. You got nobody in the wings here.
well,
Joe
the
Biden.
deadline to put things on the ballot, like for city council races, I mean, this tells us, doesn't it, when people have to file?
Should.
Well, it may be governed by state law.
Yeah, I thought it was like a board elections thing.
To, maybe to simplify this, I don't know, we've got 2 schools. One is serve out the unexpired term, and the other is no craft some language where somebody is not spending more than 2 years as an appointee. Should we have a vote on which way we want to go so that we know?
I want to put forward maybe that a third way though, which is just changing the term based on when someone is appointed, right? So like kind of what I was saying before, where if you do have to run in the the soonest election that's coming up, then that's your 4-year term starting then, right? So like I don't know if we can do that.
No, you can't, because it messes up the staggered
Okay.
terms.
Well, so I think a compromise is you have to, you wouldn't have, like if it's less than a year into the term and the next election is a presidential or a, you know, not a municipal, you wouldn't have to run then, but you would have to run the next year when there is a municipal election. So that gives the appointee a little bit of leeway.
So
Doesn't
that
2 years of
change
leeway.
Doesn't that change the stagger?
You still then have to run again potentially to finish the unexpired term.
So I just want,
that way there would never be a back-to-back like elections in back-to-back years that you have to run for. Is that the idea? Because it would just be
Yeah,
every other
you'd
year.
never have to run, you would never have to run within less than 2 years. It's sort of a compromise
Right.
position.
But it always focuses on the municipal election as opposed to a general election, is
Yeah.
that right? Okay, so, and then the next municipal election is gonna be 2 years after that, right? Okay,
Right.
I just wanna change I'm gonna bow to the wisdom of our other sister cities and say, yeah, something like, if they're appointed by this time, then they have to run, if they're appointed after this time, they run. So I'm just joining a different camp here.
That's what I was asking. It looks like the sort of the unexpired term is not an option we're really seriously considering now. So we need to look at how can we make it workable both for the appointee and for the purposes of democracy. Is that where we're at? Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like not having to run in back-to-back years, that was what was really the burden. So as long as it doesn't, as long as we don't make them do that.
So do you want me to try drafting something that strikes that kind of a
Yeah.
compromise position
Yes.
and I'll bring it to
Yeah,
you
cause
for
it's
the next
tricky,
meeting?
yeah, it's tricky.
That'd be
It's a
wonderful.
So,
This is why a weekend retreat may be needed.
I know, that's right, that's right.
Once we have like gathered all of
complicated.
our information,
Yes,
right?
Yeah,
Like, but
lots of snacks. Sorry, Jonathan, you were asking.
no, I just wanna make sure, so this one on the right, this is where we'll be keeping comments.
Okay,
I'm asking, but
yes, for this section.
yeah, it'll be now in this,
So this
okay.
is a new document.
This is the one that's yours, yes. This
But-
is, I don't even know what to call it. It's a comparison of the current charter to the charter as of 2019.
I call it a cumulative compare.
There
But
you go.
the one with the red line but no blue, this incorporates all the current charter? We're clear on that? Is
Yes.
that-
The current charter in all in red is
Right.
provisions that have been added since 2019.
Okay.
So this document here, Jonathan, the original document, that we have the city charter with the this
We do
one
not
here?
have the original document up.
I know,
You do
but
have a
just
Word
so-
version, right?
Of the current charter?
Yeah.
I think that makes sense to start making changes in this cumulative compare. But do we have the changes that we made previously?
I would suggest to you that when we're dealing with a section in the charter today that has been modified since 2019, we want to use the document on the right. But otherwise, because we're working off so many changes that we've already looked at and approved in the document on the left,
Yeah.
we would be using the one on the left. So when we ultimately prepare a revised document, we're gonna have to look at both.
Right, yeah, except that we don't have all the changes on the left that we put in until Jonathan has a weekend to get them.
Right,
Right.
that's right, yeah,
So that's not fully
Very-
up
yeah,
yet.
it's-
I see.
It will be soon because when Lee joined us, he started documenting these and those will show up, but we missed a couple sessions.
I
And
see.
we'll get them soon.
So for instance,
So you're clear on that, Jonathan, right? Given
Yeah,
that you're
yeah,
only doing this
Yeah, so
now it's on.
the idea is to get the 2019 document with all of our changes, start to
With our
finish in it.
changes.
That's the goal for this weekend.
So for instance, you know, the next section is salaries, and for that one, we did approve changes that were put into place in
Yeah.
the 2019.
Take the burden off.
The only changes made more recently were to, you know, this is focusing on salaries of council and not the mayor, because
Right.
the mayor's salaries addressed somewhere else.
Right, we said the Civil Service Commission will do the salary increases, not have the
Yeah.
council do it. It is 10-ish to 8, by the way.
Yeah, we probably need to wrap-ish up. So, but I'm glad we were able to at least touch that.
And it looks like
But it's so complicated.
We figured out
We'll be in better shape for next time.
Yes. So thanks to our tireless scribes kind of thing, so that now at least we know that we won't get a fourth document to be incorporated, we hope, correct? Maybe.
So this is our final review.
Oh, well,
Let's not get too
We'll
critical.
leave the door open.
Are you kidding me?
I mean, you know, of the entire document.
Yeah, yeah, I mean.
Alright, so,
It'd be nice if we were.
let's pause for a second and say, I think we had a productive meeting, but where are we on review of meeting action items? So, we have some action items that have to do with posting information on our public meeting.
Lee prints more flyers, Harriet and Guy
Yeah,
distribute them.
Harriet and Guy are gonna post stuff. Guy's gonna post on Nextdoor.
He's printed them off.
Graham is going to post on Instagram. I am going to write a press release for the Sun Press, which will pretty much be this that we've already approved. If I deviate in any substantial degree from this, I will come back to you, but I'm planning that I will just use that, because why reinvent the wheel? Craig is gonna get back to us on what's going on with Heights Observer. I am going to take a shot at getting a Google Doc prepared with so people can use that to sign up, and we will try to get a link with a tiny URL code that's gonna go into this document.
And I mean, you might wanna use Google Forms.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna use.
Okay, use a Google Doc, just being.
Oh, I meant Forms. Yes, Google Forms. Yes, there is a difference. So the nice thing about the Google Forms thing is if you do your sign up that way, we can easily print something up that shows us the names and contact information of everybody who signs up. It's pretty handy. Let's see. I am going to follow up with Mike Thomas with our flyer and the text that we want. And I'm gonna follow up with the facilitator about talking with us about the bucket 4.
The bucket with a hole in it.
Does anybody else have something?
When you talk to Michael Thomas, if you could ask him to
This is
post
yours,
a
correct?
flyer.
Oh, yeah, that was.
Yeah.
But
Or else-
also, when you're talking to Mike Thomas, if you can say that his initial posting said details to come.
Right,
So it is really important to me and to us perhaps that more details get in there about what's happening.
right.
I know
I'll
when
make
you're-
that point to him.
When you're the editor, sometimes you make shortcuts because you don't have room or whatever else, but this is.
Well, and I think he was kind of compromising with us because he didn't want to do it until the following week, and I kind of pushed him a little.
Oh, okay.
And it was because he had other community events to announce.
Yeah.
So now that those events have happened, he'll have more space to put our lovely flyer in.
Just more information.
Yeah.
Just let you know where to go,
Yeah,
And you're
things
gonna
like
ask
that.
him to do both the digital and the print copy.
Yeah, I'll ask you. These are
does anybody have anything else I missed on the, I'm following up with people on, scheduling the folks that haven't talked to us
Yeah,
yet.
do we have a new date for Jim Peppers?
No, that's what I have to do. I've gotta share with Jim, with Anthony Maddox, and with the mayor. Here's our new Doodle slots available, and also I will reach out to the other mayors and to the representatives of the committee for an elected mayor to get them booked. And hopefully we will do that in as few meetings as possible. I will try very hard
And
to,
I'm gonna contact Kyle Herman
yeah,
with some dates, so I need to get with you about what date.
well,
Well,
we could send him the same link.
okay, all right.
We could send him the same link.
Does anyone have quick reference to our firm dates in February? Because I was looking on the city calendar, there was one there that I had listed. We're meeting on February 7th, Wednesday, February 7th.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one there at the end of the month, something
Yeah.
like that I had lost track of.
Yeah, it's the 28th.
Yeah, okay. That's a Thursday, I believe.
No, it's a
no.
Wednesday.
It's a Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay,
It's the last Wednesday.
alrighty. There was some other, can anybody get to the Quick City website and look at the
There,
calendar?
we do have a Thursday on the 22nd.
Okay, that's what I was wondering about.
22nd of what month?
February.
For
I
what?
think I think that's
I
on
don't
the
know.
city calendar.
It's just on my Google
Because I'm
calendar.
looking
Well,
at
we were supposed to have a meeting on the 21st, but we couldn't do it on the 21st, so it got moved to the 28th.
Oh, we're not having a meeting on the 21st?
No, because the room's not available.
Okay, I thought we moved that to 22nd, but no, we're doing the 28th. So there is no 22nd meeting.
No, 21st or 22nd?
Either.
Already, so our two firm dates in February are the 7th and the 28th. And there may be others added at the moment, but.
Yeah, the other ones that may happen, if you wanna jot them down, are the 2nd,
Well, that's not
the
about-
3rd, the 5th, the 6th, and the 10th. But it won't be all of those, I promise you.
And are there any more for January?
Nothing tomorrow, in other words.
Or the 29th or 30th?
No.
I didn't think there were, but I figure I'll just ask now.
No,
Okay.
Greg reminded me.
I think we're meeting out.
The 12th for sure, but that's not one
Are we
of our.
meeting about that?
Please,
If you want.
you have to have a quorum and we'll make it.
I appreciate your patience. I know it's a lot and I appreciate it. And I'm sure that city council members appreciate it. They realize we're working hard.
And I don't know if reality will prove it, but my sense is that with all these interviews, we just have a need for more meeting. But that once we have these remaining interviews finished,
It'll ease up.
So I'm sorry, do we have something on the 28th or not?
Yes, yes.
But not the 21st or 22nd.
And that is a regular.
That's our regular meeting,
One of these real.
our standing meeting. But did you get those other dates in February?
No, I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
Do you wanna write them down if I say them again?
We've got the 7th and the 12th locked in.
Yeah, the 12th also is our public meeting.
Right. That's what I mean.
7th.
What's the 7th?
Yeah.
Oh, that's our regular, that's our standing
Yeah, the
meeting.
7th is here, the 12th is at the community center, the 28th is here.
Right.
And some other
Right, and
dates are hovering.
Everything else covered.
And those are from the doodle, right?
Right.
And that included some Saturdays.
Yeah. How do you all feel about Saturdays? Do you like Saturdays or would you rather not have Saturdays? If I have choices.
I don't care.
It's fine.
I mean, as long as it's worth it, like not a, hey,
Not
Saturday.
one person.
Well, or the damn well they better show up.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think there's something nice about Saturdays if we're gonna have like a working meeting, you know, cause like we can like something very,
Do you want the dates, Harriet?
no, I think I'm good. I think I'm good.
you followed your email, right? You sent out an email that had those dates in it.
It was the doodle poll.
And we don't have, those potential dates aren't
There are still
confirmed
potential.
yet.
Yeah.
Right.
Right,
We're still
but you
waiting
need to
for
hold them
Other
temporarily.
people, yes. Hell is other people.
Motion to adjourn?
I'll second.
Right on the,
Yeah,
right on
yeah.
time
Or
here.
is it?
I noticed the Monday meeting was exactly 2 hours to the second on the YouTube, so.
Any discussion?
Or was it? The
All in
second?
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nope.